The alarm screamed through the bridge of the Confederation rescue ship Peaceful Dawn. Commander Zeth pressed his blue-scaled hand against the control panel, his large eyes scanning the incoming message that made his heart skip a beat. "Sir, we're getting a distress beacon from Research Station 7, called out his communications officer. "It's been silent for 3 days. Zeth's stomach dropped. Research Station 7 was supposed to be safe. The gentle Zephyrians had set it up on a quiet planet to study rocks and plants. Nothing dangerous ever happened there. These scientists were so peaceful they apologized to flowers before picking them. What's the last message we received, Zeth?" asked. The young officer's voice shook as he read from his screen. "The ground won't stop shaking. Something's hunting our people. We can hear them screaming outside. These creatures. They don't give up. They just keep coming. If anyone receives this, don't send a rescue team. Send soldiers. Send everyone." The bridge fell silent. In the 1,000 years since the Galactic Confederation formed, they'd never heard fear like this from the Zephyrians. These were people who spent their days measuring soil samples and taking pictures of pretty sunsets. "Prep the rescue team," Zeth ordered. "Standard formation, within hours." The rescue ship jumped through space toward the distant planet. The crew was exactly what you'd expect from a peaceful galaxy. Dr. Mira was a tall, thin creature with a big brain who could solve any puzzle. Ambassador Cole could talk his way out of any problem with his soothing voice and endless patience. The muscle of the team was Lieutenant Brass, an 8-foot-tall gentle giant whose people were strong enough to lift cars, but preferred growing gardens. None of them had ever seen real danger. Why would they? The galaxy was safe. Predators were extinct on most worlds. The worst thing that usually happened was someone getting a splinter. The journey took 2 days. When they finally arrived at the planet, something felt wrong immediately. The world looked angry. Storm clouds twisted across blood-red skies. Lightning flashed every few seconds. The oceans weren't blue, they were dark green and bubbling like soup. "This can't be right," Dr. Mira whispered, staring at her readings. "The temperature keeps changing every few minutes. The air has poison in it. How did anyone think this place was safe?" Ambassador Cole tried to stay positive. "Perhaps the equipment is broken. Let's check the research station." But when they scanned the surface, their hearts sank. The research station sat in the middle of a wasteland. The ground around it was torn up like a battlefield. Strange claw marks covered the walls. Most terrifying of all, there were no life signs. "Where's everyone?" Lieutenant Brass asked in his rumbling voice. They landed carefully, weapons ready, but hoping they wouldn't need them. The Confederation didn't really have weapons anyway, just tools that could stun someone long enough to have a reasonable conversation. Inside the research station, they found chaos. Furniture was flipped over. Computer screens were smashed. Personal belongings were scattered everywhere, like people had run away in the middle of eating dinner. But the strangest thing was that nothing was stolen. All the valuable equipment was still there. Whatever had done this wasn't looking for treasure. It was looking for the people. Dr. Mira found the main computer and started reading the research logs. Her face got paler with each entry. "Listen to this," she said, her voice shaking. "Day 12. The seismic activity is getting worse. We think something big is moving underground. Day 15. We saw them today. Creatures unlike anything in our databases. They walk on 2 legs like us, but they move wrong. Too fast, too quiet. Day 18. They're not just animals. They're smart. They're watching us, learning our patterns." Ambassador Cole felt his chest tighten. What happened to peaceful first contact protocols? "There's more." Dr. Mira continued reading. Day 20. Made contact with unknown species. They call themselves humans from a place called Earth. They say they can help. They say they understand dangerous worlds. Day 21. The humans are coming. Their ship is small but fast. I hope we're making the right choice. Lieutenant Brass scratched his massive head with one finger. So these humans were trying to help? That's what it sounds like, Dr. Mira said. But look at the final entry. Day 22. They're here. Dear ancestors, what have we done? These humans. They're not like us. They smile when they see danger. They laugh when things try to hurt them. They're hunting the creatures that were hunting us, and they're enjoying it. I don't know who's more frightening anymore. The rescue team looked around the empty station. With new eyes, had the humans saved the researchers, or had something else happened? Deep in the computer files, Dr. Mira found video recordings from the security cameras. The first few showed the Zephyrian researchers running in panic from massive, snarling beasts that looked like nightmares with too many teeth and claws like swords. But then the videos changed. New figures appeared, bipedal creatures that moved. With smooth confidence, they were smaller than the monsters, but somehow more frightening. While the beasts roared and charged around wildly, these newcomers moved with purpose. They set traps, they made plans, they worked together like a machine designed for one thing. Are those the humans? Ambassador Cole whispered in the final video. They watched one of these humans face down a creature 3 times its size. The monster lunged forward with claws extended, expecting easy prey. Instead, the human stepped aside at the last second, grabbed something from its belt, and the beast collapsed. The human then calmly walked over to check on a wounded Zephyrian researcher, offering medical care with the same hands that had just taken down a killing machine. "This makes no sense," Lieutenant Brass said, confused. "They save people by hunting monsters. What kind of species does that?" Commander Zeth felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the truth. They weren't dealing with another peaceful civilization like themselves. These humans came from somewhere else entirely, somewhere that had taught them skills the Confederation had forgotten they needed, somewhere dangerous. As if summoned by his thoughts, the ship's proximity alarms started blaring. Something was approaching fast, something that wasn't broadcasting standard peaceful intentions. Through the view screen, they watched a sleek ship drop out of hyperspace. It was smaller than their vessel, but looked like it was built for trouble. Strange markings covered its hull, and weapon ports were clearly visible. "Incoming transmission," the communications officer announced nervously. The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature unlike anything in their databases. It stood upright like them, but was built differently, leaner, with forward-facing eyes that suggested a hunter's heritage. Its skin was pale, marked with small scars that spoke of a hard life. When it spoke, its voice was calm but carried an undertone that made them all nervous. "This is Captain Torres of the Earth vessel Endurance. We received a distress signal from this location. Are you here to help with the rescue operation?" Commander Zeth tried to find his voice. We are the rescue operation. Confederation vessel Peaceful Dawn." The human's expression changed slightly, and for a moment, something that might have been amusement flickered across its face. "Confederation, haven't heard of you. Are the researchers still alive?" "We don't know. The station appears empty." "Empty?" The human's eyes narrowed, and suddenly the creature looked far more dangerous. "That's not good. These people sent out a call for help 3 days ago. If they're gone." The transmission cut out, and through the view screen, they watched the human ship move toward the planet's surface with a speed and precision that made their own careful approach look clumsy. Commander Zeth realized they were about to meet their first Deathworlders, and he wasn't sure the galaxy was ready for what that meant. Dr. Mira couldn't sleep for 2 days straight. She'd been studying the data about these mysterious humans and their home planet called Earth. Every new piece of information made her more confused and frightened. "Commander Zeth," she called out as she rushed onto the bridge, her arms full of data tablets. "You need to see this. It's about the humans." Zeth looked up from his captain's chair, his blue skin even paler than usual. He hadn't been sleeping well either. "What did you find?" "Their planet," Dr. Mira said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Earth. It's impossible. No intelligent life should be able to survive there, let alone build a civilization." She activated the main screen, showing a blue and green world that looked peaceful from space. But the data scrolling beside it told a different story. "Look at these numbers," she continued. "The gravity is twice what most of our species can handle comfortably. The atmosphere has poison gas that would knock out a Zephyrian in minutes. The weather system is completely unstable." Ambassador Cole leaned forward in his seat. "Surely you're exaggerating. It can't be that bad." Dr. Mira's hands shook as she pulled up more files. That's just the beginning. This planet has massive storms that can level entire cities. The ground shakes and splits open without warning. Mountains explode and cover everything in ash. The oceans rise up and wash away coastlines. Lieutenant Brass scratched his head with one massive finger. How does anything live there? That's the terrifying part, Dr. Mira replied. Everything that lives there had to become incredibly tough just to survive. And the humans? They're the ones who made it to the top of the food chain. She pulled up biological data that made everyone on the bridge go quiet. Look at their bodies. They have backup systems for everything. To kidneys, to lungs, even backup blood vessels. If you damage one part, the rest keeps working, Commander. Zeph felt his stomach turn. Why would they need backups? Because their world breaks them regularly, Dr. Mira explained. They can lose enormous amounts of blood and keep fighting. They can break bones and still walk. Their brains are wired to stay calm when everything around them is trying to end their existence. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. In their peaceful corner of the galaxy, a small cut was caused for a trip to the medical bay. There's more, Dr. Mira continued, pulling up hunting data. Most intelligent species in the galaxy evolved from prey animals. We learned to hide, to negotiate, to run away from danger. Humans evolved from hunters, persistence hunters. What does that mean? Ambassador Cole asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. It means they would chase their prey for days, sometimes weeks. They would follow wounded animals across continents until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would calmly walk up and finish the job. Lieutenant Brass shifted uncomfortably. In his chair, his people were strong, but they used their strength to build things, not hunt them. Dr. Mira wasn't finished, and they're pack hunters. They work together like a single organism. When one human is in danger, the others become more dangerous, not less. They have something they call protective instincts that make them fight harder when their group is threatened. So they're all soldiers? Commander Zeph asked. No. That's what makes them so frightening, Dr. Mira said. These are their normal people. They're scientists, they're doctors, they're teachers. They all have these capabilities because on Earth, you develop them or you don't survive to have children. She pulled up cultural data that made things even more confusing. Look at their recreational activities. They climb mountains for fun. They jump out of aircraft with cloth parachutes. They race vehicles at speeds that would be lethal if anything went wrong. They compete in physical contests where they deliberately try to make each other fall down. Ambassador Cole rubbed his temples. That sounds like madness. To us, yes, Dr. Mira agreed. But to them, it's just Tuesday. They call it sports, and they cheer for it. Just then, the communications officer spoke up nervously. Sir, we're getting a transmission from the surface. It's from the human ship. Put it through, Commander Zeth ordered, though he dreaded what they might see. The screen flickered to life, showing Captain Torres standing in what looked like the research station's main lab. But now it was clean and organized. Behind them, human, they could see Zephyrian researchers moving around, very much alive and apparently unharmed. Confederation vessel, Torres said with that same calm voice that somehow made everyone nervous. We've secured the research station and treated the injured. The hostile wildlife has been dealt with. Dealt with, Commander Zeth asked carefully. Torres paused, as if trying to find the right words for children. The local predators were interfering with rescue operations. We convinced them to find other hunting grounds. Dr. Mira quickly pulled up the security feeds from the planet's surface. What she saw made her gasp. The massive beasts that had terrorized the researchers were nowhere to be seen. Instead, there were strange markings on trees and rocks around. The station territorial markers that seemed to warn other creatures to stay away. How many humans are down there? Lieutenant Brass asked. 12. Torres replied simply, 12. 12 humans had done what the research station's automated defense systems couldn't do. They had made the monsters afraid. We're also running medical checks on the rescued researchers, Torres continued. Some of them are pretty shaken up. Dr. Chen is treating them for stress and minor injuries. Through the video feed, they could see another human working with the Zephyrians. This Dr. Chen moved with gentle efficiency, checking each researcher with equipment that looked far more advanced than standard Confederation medical gear. "Your doctor," Commander Zeth said slowly. "What's their specialty?" "Field medicine," Torres replied. "Chen's trained to treat injuries in hostile environments. Standard requirement for our exploration teams." Dr. Mira felt her worldview shift again. These humans were so used to dangerous situations that their medical personnel were trained specifically to work while under threat. What kind of species needed doctors who could perform surgery while being attacked? Captain Torres. Ambassador Cole said, trying to maintain diplomatic protocol. "We appreciate your assistance. Perhaps we could coordinate our rescue efforts." Something that might have been a smile crossed Torres' face, of course. "Fair warning, though, some of the local wildlife is still active in the area. Our teams can escort your people if you want to come down to the surface." The offer was made politely, but everyone on the bridge understood what wasn't being said. The humans were suggesting that the Confederation rescue team needed protection on a planet where 12 humans had just made themselves comfortable. "We should study their methods," Dr. Mira whispered to Commander Zeth. "If there are more worlds like this out there, we need to understand how they survive." Commander Zeth nodded slowly. They were about to get their first real look at Deathworlders in action. The problem was, he wasn't sure the galaxy was ready for what they might learn. "Captain Torres," he said into the communication device, "we'd be honored to coordinate with your team, but please understand this is our first encounter with your species. We might need some guidance on proper procedures." Torres' expression softened slightly, showing something that might have been understanding. "No problem, Commander. We'll take it slow." Fair warning, though, a standard slow might still seem pretty fast to you folks. As the transmission ended, Dr. Mira looked around at her crewmates. They were about to visit the surface of a world that had tried to destroy everything on it, escorted by creatures who had turned that same hostility into their greatest strength. The galaxy was about to change, and none of them knew if they were ready for it. The shuttle ride down to the planet's surface was the most terrifying experience of Commander Zeth's life, not because of the violent storms or the poisonous atmosphere, but because of how casually the humans dealt with all of it. Captain Torres piloted their escort ship like she was taking a peaceful stroll through a garden. Lightning struck near their wing, and she just adjusted course slightly without even commenting on it. When toxic clouds started eating away at their hull, she mentioned it the same way someone might point out a light rain. "Bit of acid fog today," Torres said through the radio. "Nothing to worry about. We've got good shields." Commander Zeth gripped his seat as their shuttle bounced through the turbulence. Beside him, Dr. Mira looked green around the gills, and Lieutenant Brass was making quiet prayers to his ancestors. How did they stay so calm? Ambassador Cole whispered through the window. They could see the human ship moving smoothly through conditions that would normally ground all aircraft. It was like watching someone swim through a hurricane. When they finally landed at the research station, the humans were waiting for them. What the aliens saw made their hearts skip several beats. The humans stood in perfect formation around the landing pad, not the relaxed, friendly formation that diplomatic species used, but something that looked disturbingly organized. Each human was positioned to cover different angles, their eyes constantly moving, scanning for threats that the aliens couldn't even imagine. "Welcome to Kepler 440b," Captain Torres said as the alien crew stepped off their shuttle. "Don't worry about the local wildlife. We've established a secure perimeter." The way she said secure perimeter made it sound like the most normal thing in the galaxy. But looking around, the aliens could see what that meant. Strange devices were positioned at regular intervals around the station. Motion sensors, they realized. Automatic warning systems. The humans had turned the entire area into a fortress without making it look like one. Dr. Chen approached their group, and the aliens got their first close look at a human medic. She moved with the same fluid awareness as the others, but something about her was different, gentler, maybe, until you noticed the medical bag she carried was 3 times the size of standard equipment and seemed to contain enough supplies to treat major trauma. "Any of you feeling unwell from the atmospheric exposure?" Dr. Chen asked, her voice warm and professional. The air down here can be rough on species not adapted to high toxin levels. Dr. Mira blinked in surprise. You can treat alien biology, basic. Principles are usually the same. Dr. Chen replied with a slight smile. Oxygen poisoning, chemical burns, pressure sickness, we've seen it all before. The casual way she listed conditions that would be medical emergencies for most species made the aliens exchange nervous glances. Lieutenant Rodriguez, the team security specialist, gestured for them to follow. We'll give you a tour of the station. Mind the perimeter markers, though. Some of the local fauna is still active beyond the safe zone. As they walked, the aliens began to notice details that made them increasingly uncomfortable. Every human carried equipment that looked innocuous until he realized what it was for. Water bottles that could probably neutralize chemical attacks. Simple tools that could serve as weapons in an emergency. Clothing that looked casual, but seemed designed to protect against environmental hazards. This is where we found the research team, Dr. Chen explained, leading them into the main lab. They barricaded themselves in here for 3 days. Poor folks were pretty scared. Inside, they met Dr. Vex, one of the Zephyrian researchers. He was a typical member of his species, tall, thin, with large eyes adapted for detailed work. When he saw the humans, his reaction was immediate and confusing. He relaxed completely. His shoulders dropped, his breathing slowed, and for the first time since the crisis began, he looked truly peaceful. Thank the stars you came, Dr. Vex said to the humans, completely ignoring the Confederation rescue team. When we heard you were from a Class 12 death world, we knew we'd be safe. Commander Zeph felt his world tilt. Class 12, Captain Torres looked slightly embarrassed. It's just a classification system. Planets are rated on how dangerous they are to standard galactic life. Most civilized worlds are Class 1 or 2. What's Class 12? Ambassador Cole asked, though he dreaded the answer. It means everything on the planet is actively trying to end you, Dr. Chen said matter-of-factly. Whether plants, animals, bacteria, sometimes even the rocks. You adapt or you don't survive to have kids. Dr. Vex nodded enthusiastically. We knew if anyone could handle the Razor Claw pack, it would be Class 12 survivors. The what now? Lieutenant Brass asked. Local predators, Lieutenant Rodriguez explained. Think of them as 8-foot-tall cats with anger management issues and metal claws. They hunt in groups, and they're very persistent. The way he described creatures that sounded like living nightmares as if they were merely inconvenient made. The aliens stepped closer together instinctively. How did you deal with them? Dr. Mira asked, scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. The humans exchanged glances, and Captain Torres sighed. We tried standard deterrent methods first. Sonic barriers, scent markers, bright lights. When that didn't work, we had to get more direct. More direct? Commander Zeth prompted. We convinced them we were a bigger threat than they were, Dr. Chen said simply. It's basic animal psychology. Predators avoid fights they can't win. Ambassador Cole tried to imagine what convincing giant metal-clawed predators might involve. When done by humans, his imagination failed him completely. The important thing, Captain Torres continued, is that everyone's safe now. The researchers are healthy, the station is secure, and the local ecosystem has found a new balance. As if summoned by her words, a low growling sound echoed from somewhere beyond the perimeter. Every human instantly became more alert, their casual postures shifting into something that looked dangerously focused. But instead of panic, Captain Torres just sighed. Looks like one of them came back to test the boundaries. Rodriguez? On it, the security specialist replied, picking up what looked like a simple camping lantern. Be right back. He walked calmly toward the source of the growling, and the aliens watched in horror as he disappeared into the toxic forest alone. Carrying nothing but a light, 10 minutes later, he returned, looking completely relaxed. Just a young one. Reminded him about the property lines. He won't be back. Double quotes. Dr. Mira stared at him. You went out there alone. To talk to a razor claw? Rodriguez shrugged. They're not unreasonable once you establish communication protocols. The aliens realized they were witnessing something that defied everything they thought they knew about intelligence, civilization, and survival. These humans didn't just survive impossible conditions, they turned them into routine problems with standard solutions. Perhaps, Ambassador Cole said carefully, you could teach us these communication protocols? The humans looked at each other again, and something passed between them that the aliens couldn't interpret. Sure, Captain Torres said finally, but fair warning, our methods might seem a bit intense for species from safer worlds. We've learned to be very direct when it comes to establishing boundaries. Commander Zeth was beginning to understand that when humans said something might seem intense, it probably meant the rest of the galaxy would consider it absolutely terrifying. And the most frightening part was how normal it all seemed to them. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in their 1,000-year history. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in stunned silence as Commander Zeth finished his report. About the humans. High Counselor Vexana, eldest of the ethereal luminary, spoke first. Her voice carried the weight of centuries. Let me understand this correctly, Commander. These humans casually walk through environments that would terminate most of our species within minutes? That's correct, High Counselor, Zeth replied, his voice still shaky from the memory. They treat Class 12 Deathworld conditions like we treat a mild rainy day. Counselor Thane of the Crystal Collective leaned forward, his translucent body shimmering with confusion. And they do this for recreation? They deliberately seek out dangerous situations. For entertainment, Dr. Mira stepped forward with her data pad. According to their cultural files, they have something called extreme sports. They jump off cliffs attached to elastic cords. They slide down mountains on narrow boards. They race vehicles at speeds that would be instantly fatal if anything went wrong. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Representative Kala from the Peaceful Garden World spoke up, her flower-like features trembling. But why? What possible evolutionary advantage could such behavior provide? It keeps their reflexes sharp, Dr. Chen had explained during the surface meeting. The human doctor's words still haunted Zeth. On Earth, if you get slow or careless, the planet removes you from the gene pool. Pretty quickly, Ambassador Prime Jor-El of the Ancient Rings raised one of his forearms. Perhaps we're overreacting. Surely these humans must have some weakness, some limitation we haven't discovered. Commander Zeth exchanged glances with his crew. They thought the same thing, until they witnessed human limitations firsthand. They do have limitations, Lieutenant Brass said slowly. But their limitations are our impossible achievements. Captain Torres mentioned that humans can only hold their breath underwater for about 4 minutes without training. She said this like it was embarrassing. 4 minutes? Counselor Thane's crystal body flickered with disbelief. Most of our species would be unconscious after 30 seconds underwater. Dr. Mira pulled up more data. Their basic physical education programs require them to run continuously for several miles. Children are expected to do this for fun. High Counselor Vexana as luminous form dim with worry. What are you telling us, Doctor? That their children are more physically capable than our adult warriors? The silence that followed was answer. Enough, Counselor Zedhar of the Industrial Collective finally spoke. His metallic voice carried a hint of fear. We've spent 10,000 years building a galaxy based on peace, cooperation, and mutual understanding. How do we integrate a species that treats mortal combat as a recreational activity? It gets worse. Ambassador Cole said quietly. They don't just survive their hostile environment. They've domesticated it. They keep predators as companions. They call them pets. Impossible, Representative Kyle whispered. I saw the recordings. Cole continued. Humans share their homes with creatures descended from pack hunters. They feed these predators, play with them, and treat them like family members. The predators protect human children. The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs. The idea of deliberately living with predators was beyond their understanding. High Counselor Vexana called for order. We need practical solutions. These humans have proven they can handle situations we cannot. The question is, what do we do with this knowledge? Elder Merton of the Archive Worlds, keeper of galactic history, slowly stood. His ancient voice carried across the chamber. In all our records, we have never encountered a species like this. But perhaps that is exactly what we need. What do you mean? Counselor Thane asked. Think about it, Murden continued. We have built our civilization in the safe zones of the galaxy. But there are regions we cannot explore, worlds we cannot colonize, threats we cannot face. What if these humans can go where we cannot? Ambassador Prime Jor-El S. for eyes widened. You're suggesting we use them as, what, explorers for dangerous regions? I'm suggesting, Murden said carefully, that they might be naturally suited for challenges that would overwhelm our capabilities. Commander Zeth spoke up. Actually, they already volunteered for something like that. The council turned to him in surprise. Captain Torres heard about Thanatos Prime, Zeth explained. The world where we lost 3 exploration teams. She asked if we needed help investigating what happened there. The chamber fell completely silent. Thanatos Prime was legendary among the galactic community. It was a world so hostile that even their most advanced automated probes failed to function there. 3 separate expeditions had vanished without a trace. She volunteered. High Counselor Vexana asked in disbelief. She seemed excited about it, Dr. Mira added. She said it sounded like an interesting challenge. Representative Kale's petals were shaking now. They consider Thanatos Prime an interesting challenge. Elder Murden nodded thoughtfully. This could be our answer. If these humans can succeed where we have failed, they could open up entire regions of the galaxy that have been closed to us. But what if they're dangerous? Counselor Zedhar asked. What if their solutions to problems involve methods we find disturbing? Commander Zeth remembered Lieutenant Rodriguez calmly walking into a toxic forest to have a conversation with a metal-clawed predator. Their methods are definitely different from ours, but they work, and they're not cruel, Ambassador Cole added. Strange as it sounds, they seem to genuinely care about protecting others. Dr. Chen spent hours treating the Zephyrian researchers, refusing payment or recognition. High Counselor Vexana was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. We need more information. Commander Zeth, I want you to remain in contact with these humans. Learn their ways, understand their capabilities, and if they agree to investigate Thanatos Prime, Counselor Thane asked. Then we observe, Vexana replied. If they can solve that mystery, we'll know we're dealing with something unprecedented. In galactic history, Elder Murden smiled, a rare expression on his ancient features. Perhaps the galaxy is about to become a much larger place. As the council session ended, representatives filed out in small groups, their conversations hushed and worried. They were all thinking the same thing. Their peaceful galaxy was about to change forever, and none of them knew if they were ready for what that change might bring. Commander Zeth remained behind, staring at the empty chamber. Tomorrow, he would contact Captain Torres and inform her that the Galactic Council was interested in her, offered to investigate Thanatos Prime. He just hoped the galaxy could handle whatever the humans might find there, or worse, whatever might find them. 3 weeks later, Commander Zeth found himself staring at his view screen in complete disbelief. The human ship Entrance was approaching Thanatos Prime like it was just another routine mission. Thanatos Prime, the planet that had swallowed 3 Confederation expeditions without leaving so much as a distress signal. The world so hostile that their best scientists called it impossible to survive. The humans had looked at the mission briefing and Captain Torres had simply said, "Sounds interesting. Human vessel, this is Commander Zeth." He spoke into his communicator. "Are you sure you want to proceed? Our records show that Thanatos Prime has a 100% casualty rate for all previous missions." Captain Torres' voice came back calm and cheerful. "Thanks for the warning, Commander. We've reviewed the data. Looks like a standard high-risk exploration. We'll be fine. Standard high-risk exploration." Zeth felt his heart skip a beat. Only humans would call approaching a planet of death standard. Through his telescope, Zeth watched the human ship descend toward Thanatos Prime's surface. The planet looked angry even from space. Massive storms covered half the surface. The atmosphere glowed with toxic gases, and strange energy readings suggested the very ground was unstable. "Sir, His science officer called out nervously, "We're reading Category 9 atmospheric storms. Ground temperatures that fluctuate by 200 degrees, and radiation levels that would cook most organic matter in minutes." And the humans, Zeth, asked if they just sent a message saying weather looks a bit rough today and continued their descent. For the next 6 hours, the Confederation ship orbited at a safe distance while the humans worked on the surface. Occasionally, they'd receive casual updates that made Zeth's crew more worried with each transmission. Entrance to Confederation vessel came Dr. Chen's voice. "We've established base camp near what looks like the remains of your first expedition. Interesting place. The local wildlife is definitely more active than we expected." "More active how?" Dr. Mira asked. Into her communicator. "Well, everything here seems designed to be as hostile as possible." Dr. Chen replied matter-of-factly. "The plants are carnivorous, the rocks are sharp enough to cut through standard equipment, and we've identified at least 12 different species of what we're calling aggressively territorial fauna." Lieutenant Brass looked pale. 12 species. Trying to attack them, though. "They're not attacking us anymore," came Lieutenant Rodriguez's amused voice. "Took a few hours, but we convinced them we weren't easy prey. They're keeping their distance now." Commander Zeth tried to imagine what convincing hostile alien predators might involve. When done by humans, his imagination, as usual, failed him completely. The real shock came on day 2, when Captain Torres sent a video message that changed everything the Confederation thought they knew about Thanatos Prime. "Commander Zeth, we found something incredible down here," Torres said, her face appearing on the main screen. Behind her, they could see what looked like a thriving human base camp in the middle of an alien hell. The previous expeditions didn't disappear. They were taken by what? Zeth asked, though he dreaded the answer. The camera shifted to show Dr. Phillips, the team's archaeologist. "We found evidence of an ancient species that's been living underground for millions of years. They're incredibly advanced, but they've never encountered visitors who could survive their planet's surface conditions. So they captured the previous teams," Dr. Mira asked, "more like rescue them." Dr. Chen's voice called from off-screen. The surface conditions were overwhelming the expedition members, so these underground dwellers brought them to safety. Problem is, they've been too afraid to make contact because every species they've encountered before was too fragile to survive proper communication. Commander Zeth blinked in confusion. "What do you mean, too fragile for communication?" Captain Torres grinned, and for the first time, her smile didn't look terrifying. "Turns out, their idea of a friendly greeting involves atmospheric pressure changes that would crush most galactic species. They've been waiting millions of years for someone tough enough to actually talk to them." "And humans are tough enough?" Lieutenant Brass asked. "Apparently," Torres replied. "They were amazed when we walked around on their planet's surface without protective suits. They kept asking if we were sure we weren't robots." Over the next few days, the updates from the surface became increasingly surreal. The humans had not only survived Thanatos Prime, they made friends with its inhabitants. They had negotiated the release of all 3 missing expeditions, established peaceful contact with a previously unknown civilization, and somehow turned the galaxy's most dangerous planet into a potential new trade partner. "The underground cities are incredible," Dr. Phillips reported. "These people have technology we've never seen before. They've been developing it for millions of years in complete isolation. They're eager to share knowledge with anyone tough enough to visit them safely, which means humans," Dr. Chen added. "They're calling us the durable ones and asking if our whole species is this hard to break." Commander Zeth realized the implications immediately. The humans hadn't just solved the mystery of Thanatos Prime. They'd opened up an entirely new era of galactic exploration. There were probably dozens of worlds like this. Place is too dangerous for normal species to visit, but perfectly manageable for humans. Captain Torres, he said into this communicator, "The Galactic Council is going to want to speak with you about this." "Looking forward to it," Torres replied. "These underground folks have given us a list of other worlds they think we might be able to visit safely. Apparently, There's a whole network of high-risk civilizations out there that have been isolated, because nowhere else in the galaxy produces visitors durable enough to survive the meeting process. Dr. Mira shook her head in amazement. They're going to revolutionize galactic exploration. More than that, Commander Zeth realized, they're going to expand our understanding of what's possible. In the universe, we've been limited to safe worlds. Because we're all fragile species, humans can go places we never dreamed of reaching. When the human ship finally returned to orbit, it carried with it representatives from Thanatos Prime beings, who had been waiting millions of years for someone strong enough to be their friends. The underground dwellers looked like living crystals and communicated through harmonic vibrations that would shatter most species' bones to humans. It was just an interesting new language to learn. As Commander Zeth watched the historic first meeting between the Galactic Council and the Thanatos Prime delegation, he realized something profound had happened. The galaxy hadn't just met its first Deathworlders. It had found its new pioneers. Humanity didn't just survive impossible conditions. They turned them into opportunities. They didn't just endure hostile environments. They made friends with them. And as Captain Torres stood before the assembled representatives of galactic civilization, calmly discussing plans to visit dozen more impossible worlds, Commander Zeth understood that everything was about to change. The galaxy was about to become a much bigger, much more dangerous, and much more wonderful place. And humanity would be leading the way into parts of the universe that had been waiting eons for someone tough enough to find them. The age of the Deathworlders had begun.